Welcome to another explainer. Right, let's just dive straight into this. Today, we are attempting a really fascinating experiment. We're actually going to reverse engineer an entire worldview, a complete life philosophy, simply by looking at a highly specific personal library collection that was exported directly into our source files today. Because think about it, when you look at the catalog of books someone keeps, what they read, what they study, what they reference on a daily basis, you get a map of their mind. And the library we're unpacking today, it's not just a random assortment of weekend reads. No way. This collection is something much more profound. It's a highly structured, intentional blueprint.
So it poses this really fascinating question. What exactly does a reading list reveal about the pursuit of absolute freedom? As we started analyzing the metadata and the summaries within this Calibri library export, a very clear, undeniable narrative began to emerge. You see, this isn't just a list of hobbies. It is a literal, step-by-step escape plan from traditional society. The texts progress all the way from shifting your fundamental political mindset to creating untethered income, to moving your physical location, and ultimately to completely detaching from the grid. And we're going to follow that exact sequence today.
Here's the roadmap we're looking at today. We'll start with number 1, the philosophy of freedom. Then move to number 2, funding the escape. 3 is the digital nomad lifestyle. 4, radical self-reliance. And finally, number 5, the ultimate off-grid adventure. Let's get into it.
Okay, section 1, the philosophy of freedom, the mental shift to independence. You know, before you can physically escape a system, you've got to mentally conceptualize what it even means to be outside of it. Our source library leans heavily into libertarian economics and political philosophy, and one of the foundational concepts we found in these texts is something called agorism. Based on Samuel Edward Konkin III's Anagoras Primer, agorism is a political philosophy that basically advocates for the creation of a counter-economy. The theory here suggests that by participating in voluntary exchanges completely outside of state control, individuals can effectively undermine traditional state structures. Now, obviously, as an explainer, we aren't here to take sides or endorse any political theories, but it's absolutely vital to understand that for the architect of this library, absolute freedom begins with this radical reimagining of economics. And the library takes this concept even further. We see author Tom W. Bell's book, Your Next Government, which directly contrasts the traditional nation-state model with what he calls polycentric legal systems, or stateless nations. The traditional model, as we know, relies on centralized, geographically bound authority, but the polycentric model, which is deeply explored in these texts, envisions overlapping, competitive, and completely decentralized networks of governance that you actually opt into. It's a total paradigm shift regarding how humanity might organize itself and consent to laws. But here's the thing, this mental shift, it's not just political, it gets deeply psychological too. The library includes Sam Harris's book Free Will, and the metadata includes this incredibly provocative review snippet from Jerry A. Coyne. He writes, "Free will is an illusion so convincing that people simply refuse to believe that we don't have it. Read it, you have no choice." Finding this deep, neurophilosophical text sitting right next to books on stateless nations really suggests a reader grappling with the very biological and societal limits of human agency. If you're going to break free, you first have to understand the invisible forces pulling your strings. Moving right along to section 2, funding the escape, building a financial engine. Because let's be honest, philosophy is great and all, but to actually leave the traditional system, you need cash. You need a financial engine that isn't chained to a physical cubicle somewhere. And this is where the library gets surprisingly, almost hilariously, practical. Mixed right in with the heavy anarchist theory are these hyper-tactical, mundane business manuals. We're talking booklets like Crystal Payne's How to Make Money Blogging, the SEO booklet, and guides to generating massive blog traffic. The crucial point to take away here is that digital monetization is the enabler of sovereignty for this person. SEO optimization, content creation, business blogging, these aren't just career skills, they are literal survival tools. They're the portable financial engine that makes this entire escape plan possible.
All right, section 3, the digital nomad lifestyle, the physical transition.
Okay, so once your income is untethered from a specific zip code, your physical body can actually follow. And the cornerstone strategy found in the library for this specific phase is called geo-arbitrage. Tim Leffel's book, A Better Life for Half the Price, is a prime example of this. Geo-arbitrage simply means taking the money you earn in a strong economy, say through that newly monetized blog we just talked about, and moving to a country with a significantly lower cost of living. You're instantly upgrading your lifestyle while actually spending less money. It's an economic hack that absolutely maximizes the purchasing power of your digital income. And this library literally gives you the exact playbook to pull this off. Michael Holloman's The Digital Nomad Escape Plan uses Chiang Mai, Thailand as the ultimate test case. The text breaks the transition down into 4 highly logical, actionable steps: securing the proper visas, rigorously managing that new cost of living, finding reliable co-working spaces so you can maintain that digital income, and navigating cultural adaptation. It's presented not as some relaxing vacation, right? It's a highly calculated, strategic relocation.
Which brings us to Section 4, Radical Self-Reliance, Untethering from the System. Now, being a digital nomad in a place like Thailand is absolutely one level of freedom, sure, but you're still ultimately relying on their local grid. Our library's architect wants to go way further, taking a 3-pronged approach to complete self-sufficiency. Under food and agriculture, we find books like J. Russell Smith's Tree Crops, which pushes for permanent sustainable agriculture. Under shelter and vehicles, there are guides to building bug-out vehicles. And under health, well, things take a very extreme turn with Ragnar Benson's controversial Do-It-Yourself Medicine, which literally details obtaining and using things like antibiotics without a prescription. Again, we are just neutrally reporting what's in these files, but it clearly highlights a deep desire to be completely disconnected from institutional support systems, even modern healthcare. So, what acts as the bridge between that digital nomad life and total off-grid survival in these texts? It's vehicle-based independence. Authors like J.J. Luna and Robert Wells write extensively in this collection about living in cars, vans, or RVs. But it's really important to note, this isn't just about that trendy van life aesthetic. Not at all. The texts focus on achieving absolute debt freedom and engineering your own off-grid power and water solutions. The vehicle essentially becomes a mobile fortress of autonomy. And finally, Section 5, the ultimate off-grid adventure, maritime sovereignty. Because if you really truly want to escape the rules of land-based governments, well, you've got to head out to sea. The sailing section of this library is intense. It's completely dominated by Lynn and Larry Pardey, who are these legendary sailors advocating for long-distance cruising with minimal reliance on ports or external services. Their book, Storm Tactics, is particularly telling. It's an advanced guide to heaving to and surviving extreme, violent weather conditions out at sea. The library isn't romanticizing the ocean here. It is actively preparing for its absolute most brutal realities, treating maritime skill as the ultimate final test of radical self-reliance. And these concepts are brought to life through some incredible true stories too, like Wendy Hinman's Tightwads on the Loose. It chronicles a grueling but liberating 7-year journey crossing the Pacific Ocean on a shoestring budget in a small boat. It just perfectly marries the financial constraints of geo-arbitrage we talked about earlier with the intense physical demands of off-grid sailing. It proves that this entire philosophy mapped out in the rest of the library can actually be lived out in the real world. I think the ethos of this entire collection really boils down to one stark contrast. While there is exactly one book about the conventional joys of yachting, it sits entirely isolated against the gritty DIY reality of titles like H.W. Patterson's Small Boat Building and classic manuals on amateur canoe construction. In the context of this specific escape plan, true independence doesn't mean buying a luxury yacht. True independence means having the knowledge and the sheer will to harvest wood, shape it, and literally build the vessel of your own salvation from scratch. Think about it. We've journeyed all the way from the theoretical dismantling of the state to SEO marketing to van life and finally to building a boat to survive a storm at sea. It is a breathtakingly complete blueprint for a very, very specific kind of life. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder. If you were to design your own escape plan from the modern world, what books would be in your library? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparked your curiosity, and I'll catch you next time.